Lord Ramachandra returned to his abode, to which Bhakti Yogas are promoted. This is a place to which all the inhabitants of Ayodhya went after they served the Lord in his manifest pastimes, by offering him obeisances, touching his lotus feet, fully observing him as a father-like king, sitting or lying down with him like equals, or even just accompanying him. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Yene kama kama diva eva ye vita tattva trikabdana punajama nitama eta yuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in the material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Here this is confirmed. All the inhabitants of Ayodhya who saw Lord Ramachandra as citizens, served him as servants, sat and taught with him as friends, or were somehow or other present during his reign, went back home, back to Godhead. After giving up the body, the devotee who becomes perfect in devotional service enters that particular universe where Lord Ramachandra or Lord Krishna is engaged in his pastimes. Then, after being trained to serve the Lord in various capacities in the Prakta Leela, the devotees are finally promoted to Sanatana Dham, the supreme abode in the spiritual world. This Sanatana Dham is also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. One who enters the transcendental pastimes of the Lord is called Nitya Leela Pripiste. To understand clearly why Lord Ramachandra returned, it is mentioned here within that the Lord went to a particular place where the Bhakta Yogas go. The impersonalist misunderstands the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam to mean that the Lord entered his own effulgence and therefore became impersonal. But the Lord is a person, and his devotees are persons. Indeed, the living entities like the Lord were persons in the pastime. They are persons in the present, and they will continue to be persons even after giving up the body. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Tasmai Shikrama Panchkapa Kushishka Kripa Sindhu Evita Parivana Paravivo Vaishnavina Mama Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Karada Shivasti Gopanavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. To ask again for your blessings to be able to present something that will be of use. It's funny, when I first read this, the first thing that came to mind was, no Hanuman, no Hanuman, no Hanuman. Yesterday we were hearing how Lord Ramachandra didn't need Hanuman's help, and yet there's a pastime when Ramachandra is saying no Hanuman. Why was he saying no to Hanuman? Well, in the same Leela, as the monkeys and Hanuman are ripping off mountains and they're throwing them into the sea to build the bridge to Aronium, there was one spider who thought, this is just too much fun, I want to join in. And he only had a little spider body, little tiny spider body. What can you do with a little spider body? So he was doing the best that he could. He was just flicking little grains. He was flicking. And here's Hanuman, and he's ripping off mountains, and he's throwing them into, so he's doing the real work. Yeah. I'm the one that's going to build the bridge, that's going to Ramachandra, go over to Lanka. Yeah. And there was this little spider getting into his way, and the little spider's just flicking. Get out my way! What are you doing? Your service is useless. How long is it going to take you to get from here to Lanka? By the time you've done that, the whole Leela is going to be over. We're going to be at home having a cup of tea and a slice of cake. What are you doing? Seriously, what are you doing? What are you doing? Immediately, Lord Ram chastised. No, Hanuman, no, Hanuman, no, Hanuman. He is serving so nicely. He's serving so nicely. With all that he had, he just wanted to enter that pastime so nicely. And we're very fortunate that we can sit here today and we can appreciate this. And we can appreciate the deeper meaning. Why is it that we can appreciate this deeper meaning? How can we appreciate the activities that are going on in the spiritual world? Have you ever taken a step back and given this a little bit of thought? Why that is? So I'm going to do a little exercise. I'm going to write a word on the board. I was wondering if one of you great saintly persons could tell me what that word is and its meaning. Yeah? It's where you pump the water. Are you sure? Are you really, really sure that that's where you pump the water? I have to admit, Srinivas, that this is what we learn in the very, very preschool in Wales. It's actually a Welsh word. Anybody want to take a second guess at the word? No. It's a Welsh word. The clue's in Welsh. Anybody here speak Welsh? We're all thinking now. So I'm going to give you a bit of a helping hand. Okay. Anybody want to have another go? Can you tell me what the word is? 5. Indra, Tri, Pedwar, Pimp. 5. The spelling's changed for anybody that comes from Wales. It used to be P-I-M-P. The Welsh Language Board has changed it because whenever we wrote that down, most people who spoke English just fell about laughing. That was the end of the class. But we see how easy it is. We've looked at a word and we've immediately interpreted. Based on what? We've interpreted based on our own knowledge. I knew it was a Welsh word. I was a bit duplicitous in as much as I didn't tell you it was Welsh. But immediately you know that it's Welsh. What do? You find a Welsh speaker and you go, excuse me, can you interpret this for me? I'm a bit stuck. So as I was pondering this, how is it that we can enter so nicely these pastimes? Why is it that we can understand why Lord Ram is saying no to Hanuman? Why is it that we understand that the service done by the spider was equal to that done by Hanuman, even though physically it didn't seem that they were equal. How do we know that? We've been given the understanding. Why have we been given the understanding? Who's given us the understanding? Had the same attitude. Yeah, attitude comes into it, but who's given us the understanding? Acharya. Who's our founder Acharya? Prabhupada. I want to read something from the Nisha Leader preface day. And he's talking about it's Prabhupada's meditations. We see in such a limited way when we talk of Prabhupada memories. We can spice these memories with the knowledge we get from Sastra. To the degree that we realize it and the internal nature of the spiritual master. In other words, there is a Prikta, or Prabhupada's manifest pastimes. And there is the Aprikta, or his unmanifest pastimes. For myself, I only know what I saw and witnessed. I only know what I am able to comprehend as his disciple. If I have faith that Prabhupada is eternal Guru, Nitai Lila Prishtate, then I should understand with faith that he goes back to the spiritual world. My faith should help me follow him to the spiritual world. I should acknowledge on faith that he never left the spiritual world. Isn't that deep? Never left the spiritual world, and yet we saw Prabhupada. We can watch him on video. What's Prabhupada's main interest? His main interest was to educate. We have the example of Srinivasacharya. And he'd actually initiated many disciples, Ramachandra, Kaviraj, and others. He also wrote songs full of bhakti. And it was noted that when he would lead kirtans, he would often lose his voice. And it's noted that Srinivas was also Siddha Siva or Munai Manjara, watching Srimad Radharani. It was obviously noted many times that he would, although present in the material world, would actually be partaking in the spiritual world. And there's many times that he'd actually bring stuff from the spiritual world into the material and quite mystify him. And there was a pastimes when they were actually celebrating Hol. It was the Hol Leela. And actually they actually asked him as Munai Manjari, because he was actually there as Munai Manjari. So in the material world he was Srinivasacharya, in the spiritual world he is Munai Manjari, to supply Radhika with as much colour as possible, because they were throwing it at each other. So he's supplying all this colour, so much so that there's a disturbance. We have a disturbance. Yeah? And he was woken up. He's in the material world and he's covered in the colours that had been thrown. Srila Prabhupada never left the spiritual world. How do we know that? How do we know that Prabhupada never left the spiritual world? It's here. The pastimes are written in such a way that we can understand. And to prove that, he left the holy dhams, where preaching of Krishna would be quite easy. He set sail in the Yanaduta. Heart attacks along the way. The material body really, really tested. Not determined. And he came to America in the 60s when there's counterculture. The old people had caused the problems that we were facing today. So they were rejecting anything connected with anybody that looked remotely like they were old. Yeah? All the authorities, the presidents, those in authority they were rejecting. And along comes Prabhupada, an old Indian-bodied man, with his book in his hand and his mission to start Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement here in the West. It's a tough call. But he never lost sight, because he was always in the spiritual world. Krishna will provide. What I lack, Krishna will make up. So what does he do? He goes to a park and he sits down and he starts chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Immediately everybody started joining in. Counterculture in the 60s, rejecting all the old people, and here's an old person. Why were they so attracted to Prabhupada? Because Prabhupada was in the spiritual world, connected to Krishna. Who's the most attractive person we've ever gone to see? Sri Krishna. But his mercy extended even further than that. Because then he came to London. He went to Soho Street and he installed Radha London Iswara. And then he came to Bhaktivedanta Manor and he installed Radha Gokulananda. He said, here is Radha, here is Krishna. Radha and Krishna never leave the spiritual world. And yet every day when we come to the temple room, we're in the presence of Radha and Krishna. We're in the presence of Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman. Have we ever really stopped and wondered why when we come to Bhaktivedanta Manor, it doesn't matter what we're facing outside, the moment we enter into the temple room, immediately there is relief. I came back from Radhadesh and I went into a very, very tough time. Working in the community, sometimes you come across neglect and abuse that sometimes just kills the soul. Where you go home and you cry. Because as much as the system allows you to do so much, it doesn't allow you to solve the problems, and you know that the person is suffering. It's too much to bear. Too much to bear. The mercy of the devotee is that they contact me and say, can you give class? Which means that I connect with Krishna through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, who not only in words but in form brought the spiritual world to us. That brought great relief. And I arrived here at Bhaktivedanta Manor and I thought, okay, I'll have a look, see who's giving class, and it was a Bhakta John. I thought, I've never heard Bhakta John give class. So that's good, I'll go and listen to Bhakta John's class. So I got here, I joined in the kirtan, and the traumas of the last 3 weeks was removed, and then I sat, and Bhakta John gave the most glorious class. Such a humble devotee sat and he said, okay, I've been asked to give Bhagavad Gita class. I've not covered this subject matter, but I'll do my best. What he lacked, Krishna made up. Everybody left the temple room and we're all in ecstasy. His qualification comes from what? Sincerity to serve. I've been asked to give class. What is my qualification to give class? I have no qualification. My qualification comes from the desire of the devotees. My desire is to fulfill the desire of the devotees. So I give class. Sincerity. Servant of the servant of the servant. We keep on mentioning this. Who are we trying to serve? So with as little as he had, he gave class. For those of you that missed it, you'll have to come to his next class. Okay. We often neglect Bhagavad Gita class in the evening. Sometimes the most nectar comes from Bhagavad Gita in the evening. I'm expecting the curtains to open any second. Might be a while. It was quite nice in Radhadesh whenever the curtains opened. The sannyasis that were giving class always thanked very much the pujaris. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. They're allowing me back into the spiritual world so I can feast on Radha Kulananda. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Serving so nicely. If you ever get the opportunity to help the pujaris, especially when they come and they say, Prabhu, can you do Mangalarti transfer? You know. Seriously. Do you know what time that is? Nobody gets up at that time. You know, I have to be there by 3:30. Which means I had to get up at 3. The service is so blissful. The devotees that are serving Madhaka Kulananda are so merciful. How many people here can get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, have the opportunity to go in and handle the plates that Krishna is going to eat from, the cup that Krishna is going to drink from? How many people get up and have the privilege of putting the milk and warming it up? How many people get the opportunity to move the sweets and put them on and make it very nice for the pleasure of Krishna? How many people live in London? How many people are here today How many people get to do that service? Directly connected to the spiritual world. We're touching implements that go on the altar. Prabhupada asked specifically for Radha and Krishna to come into these forms that we see here. Radha and Krishna never leave the spiritual world, so when we're feasting, we're looking and we're taking it in. This is Prabhupada's gift to us. I'm always surprised when I come to Bhaktivedanta Manor and you see the new Bhaktas and Bhaktas, and they get given one of these. Yeah. Best friend, this is the one that I got given. My first year, it was I just had Mataji Association, and I still recall the big smile in the Mataji's face that gave me this. And she marked all the things that I needed to learn straight away. She highlighted for me. Yeah. And you come and you see it and you almost clinging to it. Prabhu, what they're singing? It's this one. Okay. Really. Isn't it? And then I go away, and a month later I come back, and they're doing Mangalati transfers, and they're giving class, and they're singing to their heart's desire. Why? Because of the mercy of Radha Gokula Nanda, because each day they're just surrendering. And what they lack is added to. It's so, you know, how many people come here on school trips and they're going, wow, I don't understand, but this is so lovely. Yeah. Because they're so peeping at Radha Gokula Nanda, and they can't see because they've not got the knowledge. The moment they start reading, they have the knowledge. I went to one school, and it's one of the top schools where I live. You know, so it's like the Eton of Wales. You know, everybody wants to go to this school because it's like the school. And I got invited to speak a little bit on my life as a Hindu. You know, so. That's what to do. It's funny enough, you go in and you say, okay, you know, there's no such thing as Hindu. Yeah, okay, no problem, you know, so, yeah. They'll go along with that, no problem. You mentioned cow protection, well, there's a problem, yeah. But when it came to questions, one lad put up his hand and he goes, okay, he said, from my lessons, I understand that you want to merge into the Brahmajyoti to be with, part of Krishna. And I'd actually brought my Gaunitai deities and was telling them how beautiful it is to serve Gaunitai. And, you know, so the teacher said, can you tell them a bit about Arti? So I told them a little bit about Arti and what have you. And so his conclusion was that, you know, we're going to merge. And I said, oh, that's very nice. Very nice. I said, you meet the girl of your dreams. And he goes, yes. Yeah. Speaking my language now. I said, okay, so your chat-up line worked. You know, you didn't get the blowout because your chat-up line was really rubbish. But she took your chat-up line and you've bought her the flowers and the chocolates and you've wooed her and what have you, and she's waiting for that magical point where you go, will you marry me? You know, so she's waiting. It's going to come eventually. You know, so we've been going out now for 5 years. It's about time he married me. You know, yeah. You know, so I said, and you go up and you go, you know what? We've been going out for 5 years now. I think we should just merge together and become one. Then, how seriously do you think she'll take him? How long do you think she'll stay around? She was like, I think you need a bit of treatment. I'm off. Bye. I said, so I've stood here, I've got beautiful goniatitis. And I'm talking about developing a personal relationship. What's the point of developing a personal relationship if my conclusion is that I'm just going to merge? So I said, well, who told you? The teacher. Teacher's authority. But the teacher is stuck where? In the material world. There's no knowledge of spiritual. They do religious education. It's interesting that religious education now is not taken by people who train and study in RE. It's generally the maths teacher, the English teacher, the geography teacher, the teacher who got given it because there's nobody else wanting to give it. Religion or the talking of anything to do with scripture has been segregated to a third-rate education. It's third-rate. English, mathematics, how to be a good materialist. These are the main things that people go for now. So we have disqualified people trying to teach something. How can we have faith that what Prabhupada is bringing us is accurate because he brought it from the spiritual world, because he never left the spiritual world? We can't see his pastimes in the spiritual world. We only see what was manifest. We also see here what is manifest. I had one Mataji, and she keeps on asking me to talk about the 1985 Rugby World Cup final. She's insistent I have to go and speak about this. And I went, oh yeah, I remember that one. That's where Krishna and the Cowherd boys were playing for Wales. And 17 minutes into the game, Wales was really, really losing it, getting a real hammering from that other country where you come from. England, yeah. And I said, and somehow or other in the last 10 minutes, Krishna suddenly, nobody knows what happened, but we won. And she goes, no, I think you made that one up. And I went, well, yeah. Because if it's not Krishna Leela, then it's rubbish, isn't it? It's just a story. It's a phantasmagorical. It'd go very well in Wales, Wales winning. Would it elevate you in Krishna consciousness? No. Just bind you to the game of rugby. Six Nations is on and we're having to suffer in Wales. Oh, they lost against England. Want to beat anybody. Can lose to anybody but England, no. So we lost. So everybody was just talking about lamenting. Doesn't elevate. So what do? We turn to Srimad Bhagavatam. What is Krishna's pastimes? Let's read about Krishna's pastimes. What's it doing? Is it's training us. This is our apprenticeship. Prabhupada's given us the tools. We chant Hare Krishna minimum 16 rounds. Okay? That's minimum. Bargain basement bucket. Yeah? If we can do more, we should. My Guru Maharaj always says 16 rounds plus japa for fun. Yeah. Every opportunity. Just do japa. Why? Because it's fun. Yeah. 4 regulative principles that keep us from the attraction of Maya. If we look at the problems and why people are suffering, it's because they're not following the 4 regulative principles. What I've had to deal with is in the last 3 weeks is down to the fact that they're not following 4 regulative principles. And if you don't follow 4 regulative principles, then stupid things happen. He gave us Krishna book. How many people here sincerely read Krishna book? And that's for anybody. Qualified, disqualified, read Krishna book. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. What's it teaching us? It's teaching us what's going on in the spiritual world so that we are prepared to take our eternal position. No Hanuman, no Hanuman, no Hanuman. The spider is serving very, very nicely. This is glorious. With the little bit that we have, if we serve very, very nicely, we get our mercy. And what's the guarantee here? The spider serves Ramachandra so nicely, what happens? He gets to go to his abode. Anybody here want to question that? It's the guarantee. The guarantee is, in this little purport, is repeated, is repeated, is repeated, is repeated. This is the guarantee. If we become serious in Krishna consciousness, in our apprenticeship to become devotees, to fulfill bhakti, to become full bhakti, then that is the guarantee. We will go home. This lifetime, if we're wishy-washy, yeah, take it or leave it. Yeah, I found this sloka from Prabhupada, so I don't have to fast on this day. I found this sloka, I don't have to do my rounds. I found this sloka, I don't have to do this. Don't have to do that. Then we cheat ourselves. We want to surround people who are serious and who use the slokas with intelligence. Not to reduce what we do, but to increase and encourage. So sometimes the quote from Prabhupada that says don't do it is applicable to the person. But we have to understand the quote before we quote it. Otherwise it becomes a misquote. And our spiritual life stalls. Yeah? So what we learn here in the Bhakta course is not just that we can say, I've done the Bhakta course, tick. What we learn in Bhakta Sastri is not that we've done Bhakta Sastri and say, I've done Bhakta Sastri, tick. It's not that we learn how to do deity worship and said, I've learned how to do deity worship, tick. Done it. Don't have to do it anymore. It's that we learn these things and we continue day in, day out. We have our deities. If we're not fortunate enough to come to the temple every single day, then we have deities at home. We should see them as non-different. When you wake up, how can I serve Krishna? Right. I offer prasadam to my deities. I clean them very nicely. I make sure they've got nice fresh water and nice flour. How do I serve Guru very nicely? He's asked me to chant 16 rounds minimum, so I'll do 16 rounds. Not, but wow. How many people get to do 16 rounds of japa? I will follow the 4 regulative principles because they're there to protect me from the worst aspects of material nature. And by protecting me from the worst aspects of material nature, then we can connect more closely to Krishna in spiritual. And we increase our qualification to return home. So I'm going to leave it there. Any questions, thoughts, corrections, chastisements, additions?